There you go. Watch out, watch out, move. Move. You're a good girl, watch out. Your video. Go ahead.
We're good to go, Dr. Larkin?
Okay. Motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna ask for a vote. Elaine,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
we'll keep on wanting to say Sally, Diane,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So we are back in open session. I'm gonna report out in executive session. We received legal advice regarding various issues before the school committee. We also approved a temporary agreement with superintendent or assistant superintendent of schools, acting principal of Fort Barton School, Amy Donnelly Roach. Vote was 5-0 with no abstentions or members voting against. I'm going to ask for a motion to seal the minutes.
Motion to seal the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Elaine,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, so we were in open session. Welcome to our December 15th, 2020 Tiverton School Committee meeting. I'm going to ask for everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I have my new flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States
And
of America, and to the
to the
republic
republic
for
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
Liberty.
liberty, and justice for all.
Amen.
I'm going to ask for everyone to remain standing, and for those of you at home to take a few minutes to remember our two students, Ben Wardell and Shawnee Smith, who passed away over the last few weeks. Thank you. Our first order of business is the election of the chair and vice chair of the school committee, as well as appointments to the board committees. I am going to turn the chair over to Mrs. Farnworth. If you could conduct the election for the chair, I would appreciate that.
I will take any nominations for the chairman of the school committee.
I'd like
I'll
to
nominate.
Dr.
Go ahead,
Larkin.
Elaine.
I'm sorry, I can't see your face. I'd like to nominate Dr. Larkin as the chair of the school committee.
Any second?
I'll second.
Do we have any other nominations? Going once, going twice? Hearing none, we have one nomination for Dr. Larkin as the school committee chair. I'll take a roll call vote. Deb Palash,
Yes.
Elaine Pabo,
Yes.
Mike Dakotas,
Yes.
Dr. Larkin,
Yes,
and I am a yes as well. Congratulations, Dr. Larkin.
thank you. And thank you everyone for your confidence or continued confidence, or at least continued expectation that I won't screw things up too badly. Thank you. I'd like to open up nominations for the vice chairman.
I will nominate Diane Farnworth.
I'll second that nomination.
Okay. there any other nominations for vice chair? Any other nominations for vice chair? Any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, Mrs. Farnworth has been nominated to be the vice chair of the school committee. I'll ask for a roll call vote. Mrs. Palish,
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas,
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo,
Yes,
Mrs. Farnworth,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So congratulations, Diane.
Thank
I have to say, I appreciated all of the help that Diane has given to the committee and to me in particular, especially helping with making sure we are not running afoul of the agenda police, you know who you are, and getting things posted in a timely fashion. And I certainly hope you'll be willing to continue to take the lead on that and help me out with that. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you. So next we have designations for membership on various subcommittees of the school committee. The first is the sick bank, and usually we've just kind of gone around to see who wants to volunteer to continue on things. If there's more than some of the committees have 2 members, some only have 1, or some positions only have 1. There's no particular reason why we can't have 2 on any of the positions that have 1, or 1 on any of the positions that have 2, although except I think for the sick bank, which requires 2 school committee members by contract. We just can't have 3 because then it creates a quorum. So right now, Elaine and I are on the sick bank. If anybody else wants to be on the sick bank committee, you are more than welcome to have my seat. Otherwise, I am willing to continue doing it.
It's all you.
Okay. Elaine, do you want to continue?
yes, I'd like to continue with that.
Okay, great. So unless there's any other discussion of that, it'll be Mrs. Pavo and me on the sick bank. Okay, second is the career and technical education. So we were discussing if this was actually a committee, a subcommittee of ours. I don't believe it is. So
I think it was something that Mrs. Black wanted. There's nothing in policy and we didn't have it until I think a few years ago. I think it was just something that Mrs. Black wanted to sort of focus on.
okay.
I would like to recommend that we remove it as an assignment.
Okay. Certainly, if anyone wants to join those committees or attend those committee meetings, they're more than welcome to do so. Number 3 is the policy subcommittee. Currently serving are Mrs. Palish and Mrs. Farnworth. Is there anybody who would like to be on that committee or continue on that committee specifically?
Jerry, I'll stay on it.
Okay. Mike, Elaine, any urgent burning desire to be on that committee?
I'm going to pass on this one. There's others I'm interested in though. Thank you.
Okay, all right. It sort of really gets in the weeds sometimes. Diane, are you willing to continue on that?
I am more than willing to serve with the policy queen, Mrs. Posh.
Okay, good.
And the policy queen, is that what she said?
Yes, she's got a few different titles, it sounds like. All right.
Yes.
Next
That
is
one we can at least repeat.
next is the Legislative Liaison. Deb, I think that's you right now, correct?
No, that was me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was me, but Deb did do something with that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't do anything with
I
it.
don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Mike, would you be interested in that?
I love to be voluntold. I would be gracious to take that honor. Thank you.
All right, so moved. Seconded, unanimous vote. It's you. All right. Finance Subcommittee. Deb, Diane, I certainly have no interest in getting on that committee.
I would like to get off if I can, if someone else was interested.
Okay.
Unless Elaine is so moved, I would like to join that committee.
I will stay.
All yours, Mike. You want to stay on it, Diane?
Yes.
Do you want to stay on that one? Okay, Mike. So Mike and Diane, right?
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Well, thank you for your hard work on it up till now, Deb. Really, it's been hugely.
Time to turn over the reins.
But it's been hugely important to have the two of you there, and I'm sure Mike will do a great job too. But that's probably, I think, one of our more critical subcommittees, I would say. All right, and then we have Health and Wellness Committee. I think Diane or Elaine, you were on that with Sally, right?
I was with Sally, so I'd like to continue that one, but I need a partner. Are
Okay.
we supposed to have two?
Supposed to have two.
Well, it says two. I don't know if it's required, but
It's not required. We just can't have three because then we get into,
right.
I mean, we could, I suppose, theoretically have three on a committee. It just then needs to be posted in an open meeting all the time.
Yeah,
Which these are.
but which we do. We do that
They are,
though.
they are. The only one that's not actually open meetings is our sick bank, is a sick bank.
Right,
But
that's
we would have a quorum, so we would have to be very,
right.
particular. So that's great if you're willing to continue on it. I wish I could. I did it with Sally for the first
Yeah, I
couple of
think we
years.
only do really like 4 meetings or so a year. But okay,
Deb, you interested?
Yeah, I can help Elaine with that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think, Elaine, you're right. They only did like 4 meetings a year, right?
it's usually, I think that's what the state requires. I believe it's 4.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll follow your
All right.
lead.
All right.
Okay, great. Next is the liaison to the town council.
I would like to take that one.
Okay.
Okay, let me see. I have nobody there. Okay.
And it would be, of course, any meetings of the town council are open to any of us. And the liaison is a person who sort of hears what's going on and can tell people what's going on with us. They don't necessarily speak for us.
No, just a communication bridge.
Yeah, no, that's, I'm just sort of, so anyway, my point being is we could have 2 if people wanted to, if we wanted to have more than one. Which,
We stopped for 1 minute. I just need to go back. This is for me. What did we do with CTE? Did we drop it?
We did.
Okay.
I would like to offer if Diane ever needs a tap out or a sub, especially when we're back to live and she can't make a meeting, I'll always be there to fill in if you need help, Diane, with that.
Well, the good part about them, even when they're live, they're on YouTube.
Right.
So one
Well,
never has to actually appear in person unless there's something on the agenda that
Sure.
relates
I
to
thought,
us.
I thought we had to have someone sitting in the front row
No,
every single
Not at
time.
all. You'll note that.
That's a joke, but I challenge you to try to live up to
Yeah.
that.
No, you'll note that the liaisons from the town council, I don't even know who they were.
from the town council?
Oh,
Yeah,
I think it was Denise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But you
I
never
don't know
saw
if
them
that
at our
was Joe
meetings.
Perry. I don't know if that was Joe Perry, but it was
It-
Denise.
Right, but they weren't at our meetings.
No.
Dave Perry was
So-
before Denise, and he used to come. But
Yeah, he did a long time ago.
Jerry, could I ask you before we go on to appointment of clerk, have you ever had a liaison to the budget committee? Is that something you find that you should have, or we've not needed that?
Well, that's a good question.
It's really, I mean, budget committee is so narrow and it's for 4 months out of the year. And it really, to me, Amy really should be our director of finance really should be the contact, giving the information, giving that, because it's so specific. The council, I think that liaison came from the fact that the council wanted one. They wanted to have one with the school committee. School committee said, all right, well, we'll have one for you too. But the budget committee is just so narrow.
All right.
We haven't, but
From my experience, I would like to give that suggestion that we offer some sort of connection. I think Amy would be a great choice. Who knows finance more about the school district than she? I just think we should probably have a closer working relationship with the budget committee. That's just me coming off the budget committee. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, we go to meetings, so I guess I'm just trying to flesh out what that recommendation would be.
Yeah, so I sat on there for 2 years. I felt as though we did wait. We would have Dr. Sanquioni, Dr. Larkin would come in, Amy would come in. There was a couple of sessions we would work with them. Closer to March, we maybe got a presentation handed to us. We did get something. I thought it might behoove the town, like when we have the charter mandated meeting that everyone, I'll just be honest, everyone says is a waste. It's kind of a dog and pony show. Maybe there's some substance to this with the budget committee. So then in January, the budget committee maybe is already putting some ducks in a row rather than saying, well, we don't know what we're going to do till March. Just the way I always felt on the budget committee.
I would suggest that we hesitate before we assign anyone to that. I think because of the nature of the town's charter, we all know how very political it gets. And I think as a body, the 5 of us need to make decisions on when and how we will communicate with the budget committee.
That's a good point. The council has no authority over us, where the budget committee does have
Yes.
a role.
Right,
It's
right.
role.
Well, and generally we go when we're asked to go, and that's when there are discussions about
That's
the
correct.
budget occur.
I think unfortunately too, during the 2 years you were on, Mike, we didn't really have a director of finance, certainly nothing that's the caliber of Amy. So I'm sure they'll get information from her that probably we haven't, they really haven't seen in the last 2 years.
Okay. Well, we can always, Mike, if you want to bring it on as an agenda item at another time, we're sort of actually not really posted to do that right now. So if we can talk about it more if your thoughts evolve and you want to make another recommendation for it.
Yeah, I'm good. I thought the discussion was helpful. Just coming from the other side of the coin now.
Yeah.
I just thought it maybe was something that you all would want to talk about, and obviously you did, and I appreciate that. Thanks for listening.
Okay. All right, and then next is the appointment of the clerk. I'd like to entertain a motion to reappoint Mrs. Mendes.
Is
I'd
she
make
still
that
interested?
motion.
She's not allowed to not be interested, I think.
Sorry, Elaine, go ahead. I cut you off.
No, I'll make that motion to reappoint Mrs. Mendes.
I will second that motion.
Now my question, is she still interested?
I don't know. We're going to
Oh,
vote her
let's
on and see if she
ask her.
says no.
Carolyn, take yourself off mute.
No, I'm gonna mute her if she's saying no.
Well, we'll take her non-objection as okay.
All right. Any members opposed? Passes unanimously. All right.
I want to take a moment to thank Carolyn for doing such a great job. She's really settled into the role very well, and I do appreciate how quickly she turns everything around for us and so accurately as well.
Second that. Thank you. And thank you for doing that, Diane. So again, congratulations, Carolyn. And for another 2 years. All right. And then last is the appointment of the school committee attorney.
I'm going to make a motion to appoint Ben Scungio, and then we can have some discussion.
For a second,
Second,
any discussion? I'll go by roll call. Mrs. Pavo?
I have nothing
Carrie,
right.
can I start only because I made the motion?
Sure.
Elaine, is that okay with you?
That's fine with me.
So I am just thinking, right now we have three, we have the interlocal trust attorneys, we have Robinson Chapman, and then we have Scungio. So we have a lot of people that we talk to. And it's not that interlocal trust that we still have, and it's not that we couldn't still use Robinson Chapman at
Clapham, it's Clapham.
or
not
Clapham,
Chapman.
sorry, thank you, Clapham for specific things. But I just think it's important that we have one main kind of go-to legal counsel. And I just think we've had Robinson for decades, and I just think it would be nice to get sort of a fresh take, a fresh approach. And we have worked with Ben a little bit over the last years. I think we've been really happy with Benjamin Scungio and that group. So it's not like we couldn't, still use other people for specific things, but I think it's important for us to kind of have one go-to attorney. And right now we're sort of all spread out. So that's recommending Ben.
Okay, and I don't have a problem with, I think we should have one attorney. I think we're going way overboard with way too many attorneys. And for myself, I'm not even sure which attorney is handling which type of an issue. But I don't think that without going out to bid, I am not in favor of just choosing someone to appoint. I would rather put it out to get an RFP, put it out to bid. Oops, sorry.
Okay. Mike?
I'm gonna just kind of listen on this one.
Okay. Diane?
Did we not go out to bid sometime in the last year?
We did last year, so you're covered.
Was Ben part of those bids?
Yes. Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't recall ever names being brought back to us, though. Maybe,
They were.
They were.
yeah, maybe I'm just not remembering. I can look back in minutes, I guess.
Diane, anything else?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Anyone, anything else? So I'm gonna ask-
Dr. Larkin, I'm sorry, please continue. I just heard back from Carol and she accepts the nomination as the clerk. And she says, thank you.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Carolyn, wherever you are, hopefully listening. Expect you're
I
listening.
believe she's watching on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. So shout out to her from TV land. All right. And ask for a vote on the motion to appoint Ben Scungio. Deb,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Elaine,
No,
Mike,
I'm gonna abstain.
okay. And I vote yes, the motion passes. Next is the consent agenda. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Ask for a roll call vote. Deb,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Mike,
I'm gonna abstain.
Elaine,
yes.
and I vote yes. All
Mike,
right.
it's good that you abstained because you can't vote for it anyway.
This
He
is my,
can't vote for minutes.
not my first rodeo, Mrs. Pavo.
I know, I'm trying to help you along.
Thank you.
All right. So we are now on item number 8. Is there anything we needed to move up? I don't think so. All right, so this is policy 1190, title item 8A, policy 1190, title 9, first reading. Dr. Sanquioni.
No, we brought this to the policy subcommittee. This is and actually the school committee's seen this also. This is federal law that we have to implement in the Tiverton Public Schools. It's actually in place right now. So you moving it through policy and making it official is just almost a perfunctory task.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion. Oh, no, it's first reading. I apologize. Dr. Sanquioni, can you just give us high level what this addresses?
Sexual harassment at a very high level. That's the entire policy is now focused directly on that, and it requires training of the school department for their employees and to hold their employees accountable and have a process then to deal with these situations should they happen in our schools.
So does this, does it only cover employees?
No, it covers students too.
Okay,
Anyway,
that's what I thought. In the title of the proposed title of the new policy, I guess, I'm not an expert at Title IX, but my understanding is that Title IX was a wide-ranging law and not just sexual harassment. I'm wondering if the policy title should be more specific.
If you'd like, I certainly could add after that. I would say to you that all of this has been produced by our attorneys. And so I guess I feel like it's in a good shape, but if you feel if the title gives it clarity, we could certainly do that.
Because it doesn't it also, Title IX speak to specifically boys and girls in athletics?
Yeah, equity.
That's
Yeah.
really the amount I know about it.
Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1992 protects people from discrimination based on sex in education programs or activities that receive federal financial assistance.
Right. But you're right. What you've put in here speaks very clearly to sexual harassment. So I don't know if that, like, again, just to, in the future, if we're looking up this policy, to have a title that actually describes a little bit better what it is.
I just call it Title IX Sexual Harassment Policy, something like that.
Yeah.
Like that.
Sure, we'll add that in for the next reading.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from the committee? I'll just let you chime in. All right, so again, this is the first reading. It'll be brought back at the next meeting for approval. Item 8B, policy number 995, whistleblower policy. Dr. Sanquioni.
Again, this is our federal law. When we did a review of our policy manual and our employee handbook, we noticed that it wasn't included and it needs to be. So again, it's just an act of finalizing something that we already follow and are held to.
Okay. Any question or discussion from the committee?
I guess I still do like policy, Deb, you're lucky. Two questions. One is specifically to the paragraph that says the confidentiality of the whistleblower will be maintained to the extent that is reasonable. To the extent that is reasonable, I'm not sure what that really means in practical terms.
I would again say to you that this is coming to us from attorneys who have written this language. If you want me to bring it back and I'm not sure I feel qualified to define reasonable in a legal term, but so
I was going to say it's probably some obscure legal term that reasonable is more than 50% that,
Okay. That was it. Sorry, I didn't have two. I only had one.
Okay.
Okay.
So Diane, would you want maybe Peter just to ask Ben, like what that means in legal terms, maybe?
That would help.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone else? Elaine, Mike?
No, nothing.
Okay. Anything from the public? Sorry, I didn't about this or the prior policy. Julie, if you're able to monitor.
I am, and there is nothing at this time, Dr. Lockett.
Okay, thank you. And then number 8C is 2020-2021 Employee Handbook. Dr. Sanquioni.
Right, so we took some time to go through our policy manual here. We added some things that policies that you've approved in the past, specifically around the internet and the use of technology, that are now included in here that we needed to update. And then we added some verbiage on, find it here. The policy on the responsible use of technology has been added. And then we added some language around professional culture and respect for others, but we linked them to 2 school committee policies that are already in place. Policy 989, the Rhode Island Educator Code of Professional Responsibility, and Policy 1165, harassment. So again, it's really just an updating of the handbook and putting in things that were already policies in other places, but tightening up the employee handbook to reflect those.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee?
I will ask another one. Have the union leaders reviewed this?
We have sent it to them? Yes, we have.
Did they have any commentary?
They did, and we made some adjustments on page 22 as a result of that commentary.
Okay. The only other comment I have is I think we may have actually looked at this in a previous meeting, but I really am not 100% on board with actually copying policies, school committee policies into the handbook. I would prefer it just be linked, because if we make adjustments to those policies, we may not always remember to adjust the employee handbook. Better version control if you're just using it, linking.
Right. Yeah, we certainly can do that. I think we wanted to provide you the verbiage so you could review it as part of the handbook, but then moving it forward, we can do that.
Okay, so in the second reading, you'll have it adjusted.
You just want the links then?
I think it's better for the long run. We have one version of the truth. It's the school committee policy online, and
yeah, we just want to make sure our people.
We have more than one version.
Yeah.
I mean, you can maybe summarize it, Peter.
Yeah.
Because I know you want it in there. I know that was the discussion.
Yeah, maybe a paragraph that speaks to the essence of the policy and say the full policy can be read at this link.
Well, I don't know if it gives you any confidence to know that we update this annually. You know, in some aspects, it feels to me if we're not putting it out there in black and white for people to read, and I know it's just a simple thing, clicking a link and going there. You know, I'd hate to get it missed. So I certainly will adjust it the way you want, but I don't know if that confidence in knowing that every year we update this. So if you make a change, that change will be reflected in this manual.
Well, I don't know how everyone else feels about it. That's my thought.
I don't have a question about that, but it brought to mind another thing. How often is the policy manual updated online? Every time we approve a new policy or an adjustment to an old policy,
Yes.
is it
Exactly.
then adjusted immediately?
It is.
And are those, when we do that, are those adjustments, those new policies or adjusted policies, copies sent to town hall? They're supposed to be posted in certain places. Be kept with the spec.
We'd have to look at the policy on policy. I'm not sure.
Because that's. it used to
Certainly,
be-
it's all online.
Why would this
Right,
school committee
right.
policy need to be posted? At town?
Yeah, I think at one time it might have said that in our policy, but I'm not sure if we
if
changed it
it-
or not.
If it does say it, maybe we need to remove it, or
Right.
I just
Elaine.
like to know that the updated or new policies are included online in that policy manual, that's all. Because it's people look for certain things.
All I can tell you is I've seen policy updates online. I can't tell you I've traced every one of them that we've changed since I've been on the board, but I have seen policy updates. placed there.
I'll make a note for our next policy subcommittee meeting, Elaine, to review that and see if we in fact do have to have it
Right.
posted, because that's a
Yeah.
good point. If we're not doing that, we should change the policy.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Again, this is first reading, so. And any questions from the public, Mrs. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay, thank you. So moving ahead, we are on old business FY22 budget. Dr. Sanquioni or Amy, who's in the hot
Yeah,
seat?
and, I got the lead on this one, and we're going to share a screen with you. So this is going to be the first presentation of an FY22 budget that we want to get your eyes on. As you know, we typically do this annually to give you some thoughts on where the administration sees where the budget could go. What's important, though, is that we will develop the budget book based upon what your conversation is with us this evening. So again, I want to start by saying when we sit down to create a budget, we work with all the cost center leaders in the district. We have one-on-one meetings, certainly with the principals and anyone else that's in charge with the budget. We look at where they currently are spending their money, where they would like to spend money in the future, and we criticize and review in great detail everything that's used in the budget, both for personnel and expenses. And then we set our goals here. So, you know, our goals are similar to where they were last year. We want to meet all our mandated and fixed costs. These are contracts. We certainly have to do that. It's critical, and I'm going to highlight this here. We have to maintain all our professional staff positions this year. We'd also like to add back some critically needed positions that were cut for FY21. As you know, we cut 24.1 FTE from last year. We're required to meet all the costs for special ed. We certainly, again, I would put the word required with the next thing. We have to pay for our energy, our maintenance, and our transportation contracts. We want to maintain our capacity for technology, and you've seen how critical that is over the last almost year now with distance learning and the ability to continue to use distance learning. We want to continue to provide a high quality, guaranteed and viable curriculum. And, you know, our goal is to educate these students who come to us to high levels on a daily basis. So with that being said, some background information for you to consider. Here is the blue is our actual enrollment. The red is where we are right now, and the yellow is our projected enrollment. And you can see that the enrollment is projected to rise based upon a birth cohort model, based upon the available housing in Tiverton. Now, when you look at this year's, it looks like we had a drastic decrease. In essence, what that reflects, though, is the amount of families that jumped into homeschooling. We jumped from 30 families on average, over 90 families now are in homeschooling. So if you add that in, you'll see that we're right back up above where we were last year at 1727. So the student population is not decreasing in Tiverton, it's rising. And I expect many of these homeschool parents will come back to our schools next year, and you'll see that number jump, and we'll be right back on track with the rising population. Again, as we talk about budgets, we talk about the impact on the community, and there's, you know, certainly the tax rate. So here I'm just showing you the residential tax rates for FY20, and I've put a couple different data points in there for Tiverton. You can see that from 18, our tax rate dropped in 19, the two yellow bars, and the FY20 is still below FY18. So again, Tiverton residents are certainly benefiting from a lower tax rate. But as we continue to go through the presentation and see the numbers here, hopefully you'll come to a conclusion too that there may need to be a change in that to some extent. Per pupil expenditures, again, just a comparison band. So we look at all these communities, we take out debt and capital, which can really skew the numbers. And you can certainly see here that we're right in line with the South Coast and all the other communities that are nearby us. We're certainly not overpaying for education by any stretch of the imagination, but, you know, solidly right there. When we look at the budget, so we're about to share some numbers with you on a request for FY22. And so when I do that, I want to share with you how, in fact, if we achieve that budget, how the money would be spent. And the most important thing is when you put benefits together with personnel and compensation there, you're at 81%. And that's a strong sign of a school budget. You want to spend your money on your people. Your people are what makes a difference. It's the determinant of our success. And you can see in our budget here, it's really compromised by that. And you can see the other categories there where we spend, much less on a lot of other things. Purchase professional development services are over there at a small amount, so on and so forth. And then if I, go back to that slide, if you could just toggle back to the one I was just on. And if I look at that 81% on personnel, the next pie chart is going to break that down. So take the 81%, and now of that 81%, 63% of that is spent on teachers, 18% are paraprofessionals, and you can see the rest of the categories. Again, this is a strong educational budget. The money is spent on people who work in our schools, who do an excellent job educating our students and providing that service that we all strive to deliver on a daily basis. So we get into the numbers now. So the place to start is where we are right now. So our current operating budget is 33, and I'll use round numbers, 33.2 million. It's comprised of the local contribution and state aid. However, we had to use Medicaid and fund balance funds to really get us to a place where we could operate this year. And that's when I show you at the bottom line, the $1 million structural deficit is comprised of the fact that we use one-time money, Medicaid and fund balance, to really get to that $33.2 million budget. So that's going to come back now to be a problem for us as we look at FY22. So we put together the FY22 budget. We eliminate the one-time money we used, and we look at just what was appropriated, including state aid. That's a $32.1 million budget. And we know that the max that budget can increase is 4%. So we're going to show you the max right there, which is 1 million, which really matches up to the one-time funds that we're in the hole for from FY21. So it doesn't account for any. With 4%, it just fills the gap of the one-time revenue we use. It doesn't address any of our rising costs. And so when doing that, the budget we need then, the $33.1 million budget that can be raised by 4%, doesn't get us anywhere close to where we need to be. For us to have a level service budget, and I want to define that. Level service means not adding any staff, not adding any programs, just accounting for the people who are coming back, addressing all of our contractual needs, our bus contract, our special ed, things that we have to, in our energy, account for. Again, that budget is $33.9 million. And so that's a deficit on a 4% appropriation of $851,267. So the number one question I'd like the school committee to debate tonight is, how do we achieve a budget that's $851,000 above a 4% budget? Because as you know, there's no place to cut $851,000. And unfortunately, now I'm showing you available revenue, sources of revenue that we've gone to in the past that have been a life raft for the Tiverton Public Schools are no longer there. On June 30th of 2021, we will have a fund balance of 0. And we will have $75,000 available in Medicaid. It's nowhere near $851,000. With that news, now I'm just going to break the budget down into its two main components where we get to that budget I was just addressing. So the first is salary. So again, it's about 80% of the budget. We start at 16.6 million. And what's causing salary? Again, contractual obligations. So we own the cost of steps and lanes. We look at new hires versus former employees and what that delta is there. We put in a to be determined COLA. As you know, we're heading into contract negotiations. with NEA, and we certainly want to go to the table with good faith bargaining. We have to account for longevity. So the salary budget will increase by 16, by that amount there, by a little over 300,000 or 1.82% increase. And I just want to come back and remind the committee that the budget we're currently operating on, a budget that was comprised of $1 million of one-time money, we still had to make these cuts. So every position you're seeing on this slide here does not exist in the Tiverton Public Schools this year. And some of these positions are having a drastic impact on the education that we can provide. I mean, class size has risen as a result of this. We're not doing as much with math. I mean, the elementary principals will talk to you about the drastic loss of the math specialists at that level. Principal Craven would talk about the loss of the math specialists at the middle school. Principal Ashley will talk about the academic specialists at the high school. I mean, all these positions were contributing to a great system that we had in place last year, and they're no longer there. And so when we looked at creating this budget, we would have liked to reinstate certain positions. And you've heard me talk about some of them there. Our 2 elementary math specialists are critical. Our SRO is doing an amazing job with us this year. The assistant superintendent, RTI coordinators, which is just a stipend position. But I'm going to make a key point here that the budget I'm asking you for, that's $800,000 above a 4% increase, does not include any of this. Like, I don't even know how we could reinstate any positions right now. All right, and just to give a closer look at revenue that we've used in the past to balance, fund balance and Medicaid specifically, I'm going to turn this over to the Director of Finance, Amy Roderick, to talk to you a little bit about this chart.
So this, thank you, Dr. Sanchioni. So this is an updated chart from one of the slides that we presented to the Budget Committee last February and April about how we used our available fund balance. And Mrs. Palish is also addressing your request for us to point out some things about this. We're still in the process of wrapping up the audit. So at the end of FY20, we're expecting a fund balance of just under $500,000, of which we're using $400,000 to fill that hole in FY21. There's a small reserve for some benefits that have been long-standing. This should be the end of it. And then in terms of what remains is about $87,000, but I can tell you most certainly we will have spent that and then some on our COVID mitigation expenses that are not covered by any grants or additional funding as yet. We're hoping that there's still more to come through for that. But, you know, even if we were to get enough to cover those expenses, you know, $87,000, you know, assuming there are no other unanticipated expenses that we would have to cover. And actually, there have been a couple already. So, you know, for all intents and purposes, our fund balance, we're expecting to be at June 30th, 2021 to be zero. For Medicaid, at the end of June 2020, we had about $842,000 of that. The reimbursement rate for this year is drastically reduced. I'm not 100% sure why, but my guess is that the level of services being provided to certain students has drastically reduced due to COVID, and some of the other students who need particular services aren't getting those services, just logistics, I guess. And then we are using, again, to fill that one-time hole in FY21, the $675,000. There is a requirement that we keep a 3%, I guess, reserve, if you will, of our Medicaid balance, and that's the $164,000. We can't go below that, and which, you know, and when it's all said and done, we have about $77,000 that I'm anticipating for June of 2021, unless we somehow get some increased reimbursements in the last 6 months of the year. So effectively for all those folks who in, I believe, 18 and 19 said, oh, you have all these fund balances, what are you doing with them? We have certainly used them plus. So now we're down to brass tacks, I guess. So with that, I will see if anyone has any questions.
Let's wait to questions at the end, Amy. Let's go
Okay,
through the
sure.
presentation.
Sure can.
So we're going to move into the expense part of the budget now. So the other 20% of our total request, which is expenses. And again, I'm going to ask Amy Roderick to address this.
So as Dr. Sanquioni mentioned, when I put the budget together, I did it on a very detailed level, by school, by object code. And I can tell you that this increase in expenses are only contractual increases. Every other line item that is not benefit or payroll related it remained flat to FY21. And so the increase, if you could go to the next slide, please, David. So that $474,000, our medical and dental premiums, I reached out to the trust. They really, at this point, they still don't have a solid idea as to what our increases are going to be. They're estimating between 6 and 9% increase in our premiums, in particular, with a higher medical use due to COVID-19 in particular. So I estimated an increase of 7.5%. It kind of split the difference. The pension goes up just a little bit. It's only a 0.28% increase, but nonetheless, it's an increase. Our liability insurance, based on some claims that I know that have happened this year, I'm estimating a modest increase of about 15,000. Education, special education, working with the region, there's only about a 2 to 3% increase that they're expecting, again, assuming there's no change in utilization by the students. And so, right now they're still developing their final budget. So the 2 to 3% was just a number that they gave us for right now, because they're not expecting costs to increase all that much, again, unless the composition of the special needs students changes drastically. A little bit of good news on the transportation. The transportation contract that we lengthily negotiated called for a minimum increase of 1.75% or the calculation of CPI over the last year. And CPI has only been about 1.3%. And but we have a guaranteed minimum in the contract of 1.75%. And so that, and I'm sorry, that is for regular transportation. The statewide transportation is, we had estimated about $70,000 for FY21. However, that's coming in, the experience rate on that is coming in to be quite a bit higher. And that's thanks to RISE negotiation with the transportation contractor to guarantee X number of days, the 180 days be paid regardless of whether or not we're in session or not. And also the number of students and where they have to go has increased a little bit. So that is sort of a big jump, but that's not something we have control of. We actually just get billed by RIDE and we have to pay for it. There is an alternative that was suggested by Sarah Krieger at the region, and I'm looking into that a little bit more to hopefully save us a few dollars. I don't want to go into that quite now because we don't have all the details, but we'll certainly present that at a later date. The audit fees, we went out, the town went out to bid, so our portion of the audit fees went up by just a little bit. And then we have some other miscellaneous things. I know that the rubbish removal went up by a couple $1,000s. We got a notice saying that they were going up. We have some other small maintenance fees that go up a little bit. So that, these are the things that we know of that we don't really have a choice in which to increase. But every other line item in the budget remains the same as it is for 21. So in terms of being able to cut, we would have to, there really, as Dr. Sanquioni said, no place to cut in the budget. None of these items are negotiable. And we're already operating below the bare minimum in terms of operational costs. So to cut those any further is even more detrimental to the students than they're experiencing right now.
Okay, and so I'm going to bring it back to you now. Outside of our operating budget and the information we provided you there, we do have a complete capital plan, and the district does need to keep upkeep. Maintenance of effort is required by RIDE. These are some of the items we would seek the school committee's consideration on as we go through the entire list. Certainly, we've talked about the bathrooms, the middle school and high school. We had a great renovation of a couple of them, but there's still plenty more to do. The siding at Ranger needs to be cleaned, and some of the siding is rotting, so we want to take care of that as soon as possible. The interior door frame at Fort Barton, we want to take care of. The that's the tennis courts there with the post and the repainting. We started doing some work there. We just want to finalize that. It's one of those things where you do it now, it won't cost a lot, but if you wait, it could be very expensive. Our kitchen equipment is failing drastically. Most of this stuff is circa 1970s. And so we need to start making some changes there. We've had a maintenance contract for heating the schools on the capital plan now for at least 3 years. We continue to bring that back. And I know this is also on the agenda for later, but we've got a light pole at the stadium that's down because it was unfit to be unsafe by engineers. Without that light pole up there, the stadium cannot be used for night games for any athletics or for the community. So again, outside of our operating budget, but things for consideration if there is money for capital. In our return on investment, so you hear me use this term often, the school department should be held accountable for the education we provide our students. We've been making gradual progress there. There's a lot of data sources, but you've heard the one that I've said since I became your superintendent that, we need to get that graduation rate to 100%. And you can see an incremental gain from 19 to 20, from 18 to 19. And so we're getting there. But when we start reducing services like academic support, math specialists, math tutors, cutting out English teachers, math teachers, which increases the class size for all students, it's going to make that job a lot more harder. And certainly I could show you some other data that's showing the success of the schools, and I can build that into future presentations. But I just want to leave you with this right now, that we're starting to see some positive changes, and I'm confident that if we could fund the schools appropriately, we would get to that 100%. And we would have an outstanding school system. So all that being said, I just want to conclude with the most poignant point we're making this evening. And that is a level service budget means we don't hire anyone new. A level service budget means we don't add anything to expenses. No new computers, no new anything, just the things that Ms. Roderick spoke about paying the bills for transportation, energy, and special ed. Just to do that, 4% plus $851,267. The Tiverton Public Schools cannot cut any deeper. There's just no place to go. So I leave that to you now to give us direction on how to achieve that, because we're all in.
Thank you, Dr. Sanquioni. Dr. Larkin had to step away for a little bit, so I'll be taking over the meeting for the next few minutes. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
Well, I appreciate the thorough presentation. It's a little, and we've had such a tough year already from so many different aspects. This is concerning to me. One of the reasons why I decided to run for school committee was to join you all to make this the best school district in the state of Rhode Island. I think we need to continue to open up the eyes of the residents, especially the parents, and bring these people to the table to let them know how dire the situation is starting today and not waiting any longer. So I'm here to help in any way do that. So you have my full commitment to that, Dr. Sanquioni.
Thanks, Mike.
Diane?
Yes.
Thank you. So Peter and Amy I mean, I know the answer. We've heard absolutely nothing about state or federal money coming in to assist. I know they've talked a lot about it in Congress, but we've just heard nothing.
So we have, so the first round of the stimulus, the CARES Act, we did receive $233,000 towards COVID-related expenses. We're close to almost $500,000. So that covered most of the plexiglass that went into the schools, some air purifiers that we had purchased before we got them from Raima. You know, we got a whole bunch from Raima, and, you know, gowns, PPE, sanitizer, you name it. And so the 233 that was covered, that's great. We still have 167,000 to date that we have uncovered, you know, unbudgeted, I should say, and more that we'll need to spend for the next 6 months to keep these schools open. And yes, we keep hearing, you know, the government's going to pass a stimulus bill, which hopefully will come through the Department of Education and through RIDE. And right now, that hasn't happened. I can tell you, there have been some smaller grants that have come through. For example, the SBA of RIDE came through with about $22,000, but that has to be COVID-related capital. So that offsets a little bit more of the plexiglass, I would say. And then there's another one from RIBAC that came through for about $10,000 that'll cover PPE and other things like that. So I applied for that. So any funding source that comes in, I certainly apply for it. But right now, we're not getting hunks big enough to cover the whole. So when I say that we're going to use the fund balance and then some, it's legitimate. So yeah, we've heard I have heard nothing. Zero.
And unfortunately, schools weren't eligible for the payroll protection plan
That is correct.
monies, which is unfortunate, which is why I would certainly expect Congress to say, wait a minute, we didn't let you, you know, you have salaried employees, they contribute to the economy. We didn't let you get PPP loans. So I would certainly hope, well, okay, so I guess we just stay.
And with that, we are also required to pay under the FFCRA, the Families First Corona Relief Act, for the first 10 days, wherein folks don't have to take their sick time and things like that. Thankfully, we have had an extraordinarily low rate of that, so the impact shouldn't be too great. But again, that's another unfunded mandate. And at this point, every little, you know, chip is like, okay, well, here's 3,000 here, here's 500. Like, it's all matters at this point. So.
And thank you both for explaining the dip in the enrollment, because that does jump out at you. So that makes total sense that it was, you know, people just choosing to, you know, teach from home this year, and we expect that to flip next year. I guess that shortfall, and I know you guys hear me say this all the time, that's the result of 5 out of 6 years getting $1.
Correct.
Exactly.
That's exactly correct.
When that's a systemic, you know, problem that we have, that we've had this, you know, budget shortfall that's been in the budget. It's, you know, we've never covered it. It's just been years where we've had this just systemic problem, that we weren't covering our operating expenses with operating revenue. It's these one-time revenue sources. And, you know, that's, you know, the 851,246, even after cutting all those employees, is what happens when you don't keep up that, you know, that investment. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. I'm just,
you know, you remind us, Deb, that we have that great chart that shows that. We'll put that into this presentation when we go public, because it absolutely demonstrates that all those years with the $1, filling that gap with one-time money, it's come to fruition.
so do you need direction now for the 851,246, or it's really early and you're just sort of letting us know?
Is that the budget book you want us to create?
Well, I think.
And I'm done, so I'll let other people, but that was kind of my question, if we could get back to that eventually.
Yeah, I think we'll get to that, Deb. I do have a couple of specific questions though, Amy.
Sure.
On your FY22 salary summary, it's got a page number on it. You have new hires versus former employees at a delta of $191,000.
Mhm.
To explain that a little bit, because my expectation is that if you're hiring to replace, let's say, a retiring teacher, that you wouldn't be hiring at a higher rate.
Well, except that some folks, and Dr. Sanquioni can correct me if I'm wrong with this, we've had some teachers who have gone to other districts and so forth, and we've actually we've hired teachers at a higher level because they're experienced. There really is not a wide pool available of teachers who are willing to come into school and teach. So if they're experienced, we're paying them equal to or higher than what the person leaving was.
Okay. And then secondly, on your, you had a really good slide on the fund balance.
Yep.
And noted on there was the fact that we have gone over on our COVID expenses through, I don't know what month this is, that's on here.
November, yep.
It is November, okay, for $88,000. We have taken no votes to allow you to take the money out of the fund balance. So I think the committee needs to discuss and debate that and make a determination as to whether or not those funds can come out of the fund balance or if they need to be absorbed somehow on the regular budget.
All right, well, I can tell you that I was asked to create a projection through the end of next year, through the end of 2021 about where we thought our fund balance would be. I can tell you that our unfunded and unbudgeted COVID expenses are approaching, as I mentioned earlier, when last I checked, were 167,000, not just the 87. I just took the 87 as a placeholder to show that we will have nothing left. So if we were to take it from somewhere else, which there is really nowhere else to take it from in the budget, either way, we're going to ending up with 87,000 hypothetically isn't going to solve our $851,000 problem. So it's more illustrative than it is factual in that we were going to be actually taking it from the fund balance. But Mrs. Palish asked me to, and Dr. Sanquioni asked me to do a quote unquote projection. So that's what that is. That is not actual. And if we need to do that, we can, but either way, it's not like we're all of a sudden going to come up with the $800,000 that we're going to need. It was developed to make a point.
Okay. Okay. I now see it. Thank you. All right. Does anyone have any other comments for tonight? I don't think we're taking any votes.
Well, Diane, I get the only thing that we need direction on, and it's not really a vote, but maybe just a nod, is we want to present a budget. We want to create a budget book that starts with that budget that includes 4% plus 851,000. Does the school committee concur on that?
Dr. Sanquioni, you do know 4% is the max, so you can't go higher than that.
Yes, I realize that, but I also realize there's mechanisms that go beyond that. And the sooner we start putting it out there, I think, and that's what I'm asking you for some guidance.
I also think that it's a good idea for us to perhaps schedule a couple of meetings. One is a finance subcommittee meeting to take place in the very near future. And secondly, school committee finance workshops to start talking budget at the line level sometime in January. We have until, I think, typically sometime in mid-February before we go.
We have to submit a budget to the town administrator in January.
That's a prelim. That's just a high level prelim. So that's.
No, I understand that. I'm just trying to get some guidance from you what the number is.
Right, that's what he's asking is what should he put forward?
Well, if someone wants to make a motion to go above 4% in this forum, I'll entertain the motion.
I don't think there's anything wrong with just presenting a preliminary budget that says that, because it could be that it's not, we're not saying that we're necessarily going to bust the cap. It could be federal money comes in.
We certainly hope so.
So I have no issue. I can't speak for everyone else, but I personally have no issue with putting the budget forth that we need. And then, as we did last year, just, we put up what we need and then we have to whittle away at it depending upon what happens in the coming months.
So if you need a number, it's $33,981,041.
And that, and I'm sorry, Mrs. Farnworth, go ahead, please.
What percent increase is that?
It's 4 plus 851,000.
It's it's roughly between 7%-ish.
7%. I was gonna say
7%. 7%. 7%. Is that what she said?
yeah, it's
Yes.
about 7%.
Roughly.
Yes.
Obviously, this early in, you have no idea about state aid.
I actually stated the preliminary numbers that have come out actually reduces our state aid by 175,000 for FY22. And but I'm presuming that the appropriation will be the same because the town has to give us the same thing as they gave us last year unless they somehow get an override for that. So state aid has already come out and it's less than it is this year.
Diane, may I ask a question?
Yes, Mike.
Thank you. Between Dr. Sanquioni and Amy, because 2020 and COVID-related issues and losses of revenue to probably every town and city in the state, if not the country, have we explored any talks with RIDE or even maybe ask our state reps about if we're able to have an exemption this year to ask for a higher than 4% ask due to the severity of the situation that we find ourselves in?
I have not, I specifically have not had any of those conversations, and I have not spoken with Dr. Sanquioni.
No, the conversation starts here, Mike. We need direction from you. We don't. Yeah, that's why we're
I
here.
would think that would need that would need our House and our Senate to.
Right.
Hey, so we have a liaison to the legislators.
Setting you up like a volleyball match.
You did.
Someone just needs to spike it.
That's an excellent point, Mike. We may need some relief to that this year. And I think our legislators need to start looking about, need to start at least talking about it.
I would be happy to explore. I would just need some sort of meeting, maybe with Diane, since she would be my right-hand person, but with Amy and you, Dr. Sanquioni, I would love to bring in our state representation and see if we can't start the conversation. We don't want to wait what other towns and communities are going to do. We need to do what's best for Tiverton. We need your help. I mean, they're the direct eyes and ears to the State House, to the governor. We might need some help this year, in excess of 4%. So I'm here to help in that aspect if that's something the committee would like to try to explore.
That might be a good place, the Finance Subcommittee, to invite them in. That might be a good place to start, Mike. And start having those discussions. That's an excellent point.
Right. Well, you and Diane have been the former Finance Subcommittee, so whatever you think we could take the ball and roll with, I'm willing to make phone calls and with Diane's permission, we're a team, but to bring some awareness, like I said, we have to start now. I don't want to wait and be the 15th municipality to ask the state for something when we might be in some of the most dire need for the money.
Okay.
I can also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Diane.
I'm in agreement with you, Mike. I think our first job is to schedule a Finance Subcommittee meeting for you and I and Peter and Amy to meet and get into some of the detail here before we speak to the legislature, and know that they haven't necessarily been in session all year. They're only meeting now to try to set this current fiscal year's budget. And we will have one new representative covering Tiverton starting in January as well. So that does give us a little bit of time to maybe get our ducks in a row and go through some of this in more detail.
So Diane, with all due respect, I do believe our ducks are currently in a row. In terms of cutting, I know that last year we cut down to the bone and then some, and there was really not much left. And that's where we are at, other than the changes that we've noted. I've spent myself weeks going over every line item with every principal and department head. And so I'm happy to share with you sort of the details of that. But in all honesty, if we cut, for example, one, in our general supplies, it was asked for that we have some classroom sets and workbooks, and I forget the particular subject and name, but for the elementary schools, that was about $46,000. That was critical, that we could not add this year because of the financial situation that we're in. And so to cut anything further, I'm going to end up sounding like a broken record between now and the time the budget is passed, but any further cuts to just about anything, unless we can somehow figure out a collaborative or collaborative arrangement somehow to drastically reduce operating costs, our kids in Tiverton are going to suffer.
To your point, Diane, I think what we need to do then is create the budget book based upon this number, so you can see the line items that comprise that, and then from there we can either support it and go after it, or slice it. And to Amy's point, if we have to slice it, I don't know how we're going to do it. So
yeah, I think that's exactly what I was going to say, Peter. Create your budget book. I mean, last year we had a budget book, and we ended up, we tweaked it and changed it as we went along.
Well, if we go that direction, it will allow you to make an informed decision on what's in there, and can we live without anything? We don't think we can, or we have to try to achieve this higher amount.
But Diane, I do agree that certainly at this finance subcommittee level, that line item by line item review, that would be an exercise, I think, for that finance subcommittee.
Yeah, so let's set that up.
And certainly a school committee workshop.
Yes, after you guys have done all your, at that level, then we'll have a workshop like we did before.
Right.
But I think back to Mike's point, I think the sooner we can do that, the better, because the sooner we can get in front of people, the sooner we can get our arms around it. The sooner we can start saying, hey, we really don't think a cap, this 4% cap is going to be enough this year, the better. I mean, we all keep hoping Congress will get its act together, but yeah.
Dr. Sanquioni, Diane, may I ask another question, please? I know we're in discussion. I just want to make sure that I'm on point. I know we're going to have a mandated per the town charter meeting with the town council and the budget committee. I know there's probably not a set date yet. My ask of you is if you could try to get that scheduled soon after the first of the year. Again, one of the things that I think the sooner that we can meet as a subcommittee and get to the budget committee and the council and get these talks started now, I don't see there's any reason we should wait till March or April. I understand that the schools have to wait on RIDE and we don't know special ed funds, and I know there's some challenges. I think we should be ultra aggressive starting in January rather than in March. That would be my opinion.
Couldn't agree with you more, Mike.
Mike, please be aware, we always start in January as a team.
I understand. I understand, and not to step on anyone's toes being the new guy, please understand this. From looking at the other side of the coin where I've been, I've sat and listened to a lot of other municipal departments about what they need. And in January, they start coming and presenting, and in February. And then we know that the schools is going to be the largest chunk of the town budget. Everyone knows that pays attention. My only theory is if we start now with, we have to have this, we're really not going to be able to have much negotiation here. It's not going to change January, February, March. This is going to be it. I think we need to find out the temperature of what the council and what the budget committee, we have to remind ourselves, we're going to have 8 new people on the budget committee. We have a very new set of representatives. I think the sooner we can get education to these 8 new people, the better. And I know by no means was downplaying what the school committee has done and the way you do it. I just trying to make a suggestion this year to attack it with a little more urgency.
Point taken. Jerry's back. It's all yours,
Hi.
Jerry.
Sorry, I'm on call and I was called. So thank you, Diane, for taking over. And I didn't really, actually, you could have finished out the agenda item because I have no idea where you are.
I think we are kind of done with
Yeah,
that
I
one,
think
aren't
we're
we?
done with
We're
that.
back and forth with the FY22 budget. We saw the presentation. I don't know if there's any other discussion to be had on the 22.
Okay.
I think the general consensus was to just put a budget together with what we need, and then how we always do, Jerry, we'll tweak it as we go.
Yeah, I think that is probably the most reasonable approach because certainly there are extraordinary times.
We will, to that point, Ms. Palish, we'll have a budget book delivered to you before we break next week.
Okay.
That's pretty aggressive before the holidays.
We know what our needs were. We were ahead of the game a little bit.
Okay.
Peter, toward sort of trying to figure all this stuff out, and I know you guys have been periodically giving us some updates, but if we could have a summary of what expenses we've incurred as a result of COVID that were not reimbursed. I know there was some CARES money and some other things, but I know we also had some other expenditures.
Dr. Larkin, that number right now is about 167,000 that is not covered.
Okay.
And counting, because we'll have to get more cleaning supplies and so forth through the end of the year. So that's what's not covered.
So, maybe the thing to do would be, what we've already spent and what we are projecting to spend be, pretty important so that any increases that we have in operations in the budget, we can sort of say it's because of this. One of the reasons why we're able to maintain our children in school is because we are doing these things that are, important for many, many reasons, which I think everyone is familiar with.
Jerry, just one more thing. This was already been brought up as part of this discussion. The annual powwow, I'll use the term, that needs to be scheduled at some point before January 15th. I'm going to assume that Council President DiMederos will reach out to you on that.
Okay. Was Denise, I did not watch the meeting last night. Is it?
Yes, she was.
All right.
And Mike Burke is the vice president.
Oh.
It's like old times.
Did Deb Janik hold her breath until they wouldn't vote for her?
It is, Elaine. It's like old times. They were chair and vice chair of the school committee
The
back
school
when they served
committee,
together.
right?
Oh, really? I heard. Okay. All right. Well.
Yes.
Could sort of make some thoughts about swapping, but I guess I won't. All right. All right. So is everyone done with 9A in the FY22 budget? I mean, I know we're not done with it. We'll be living it until May, or maybe till September, as this year proved. All right. Next is 9B, monthly financial report.
Okay, Ms. Roderick, you're on.
Okay, if is Dave going to put up the slide for me?
I don't have that one.
You send it to him?
Well, it was part of the package.
See if I can get it and share my screen.
There we go. Thank you.
Got it?
In a nutshell, so this is FY21 versus FY20. And not only the change in the budget, but the change in the actuals. And for the most part, even with all expenses to date, related to COVID and so forth, we're pretty close to where we were at the same point last year. This is through the end of November. There's really not a whole lot that's very exciting other than I know that we have not received transportation invoices. We've received them through October, but not November yet. So certainly that would increase the bottom, or increase the expenses through the bottom line. But
So I'll go to the bottom. So there's the bottom.
there we go. So in terms of that, we have had some unexpected expenses. For example, there was a legal settlement that we had to pay that you can see there. We also had to do some emergency repairs to the front steps at the middle school. Those were just a safety hazard. As you can see, custodial supplies, and you'll also see, I believe, some of the it's called general supplies, but that's the building supplies, object code 56101. We're blowing through that pretty quickly. Again, a lot of that has to do with the uncovered or unbudgeted, unanticipated COVID cleaning and PPE expenses. But every other category, we're holding tight and fast, and we're spending as little as possible, and every purchase order is scrutinized. So I guess we're doing the best we can with what we have, but there's still quite a bit that's not covered. And again, we're hoping the legislature, the Congress will pass another stimulus bill. Like I said, there's not a whole lot that's exciting, so I don't know if there are any questions or.
So I'll open the floor to questions. Mike, you want to go first?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Elaine,
I'm all set.
Diane,
I guess the only question I have, I just want to confirm this. I just had it in front of me. The liability insurance, is that an annual payment premium that's paid up front?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I pretty much understand what I see. Thank you.
okay. Deb,
Just have some general questions, and it may be, it's not specific to this and we may need another discussion. When I see things like the building improvements, the steps, or even the textbooks where we didn't have anything budgeted, but we spent it. I guess in general, I think we need to be thinking about when the school committee needs to be involved in some of these discussions. I know our policy is actually small. It basically says anything over 5, I think, in between categories that, we have to approve that, which I think is ridiculous. I don't want to be approving everything over 5,000. So I guess maybe that would be something I would ask maybe the finance subcommittee to talk about, and then the policy committee to talk about subsequently, especially where we're talking about, we have COVID spending that we think we're going to go over, that I am just wondering at what level we want the school committee involved in where this stuff is coming from. And I think Amy's got her, she's got a real handle on it, and I can't see us saying, oh no, don't take it from there. But I just wonder at a higher level, because you watch town council meetings and they really, they just, I don't think so much for us to control it, except for us to just be more aware of it if we want to set some sort of dollar amount. So I would just ask that the finance subcommittee talk about it, and then maybe bring it back to the policy subcommittee. Because like I said, right now, if you read policy, it's really low. And I know we have not been approving overages.
So also to Diane, I'm sorry, Deb. So for example, like the textbooks, I know that you see it there as an overage. Our CRP, our consolidated grant proposal, is still in process of being approved. So we have to charge everything we get to the general fund, and then once that's approved, we move it over. So those textbooks, I believe, are eligible. I'm not sure if it's under Title I or Title II. So that cost, as an example, in some instances will be transferred over to those grants once the final grants are approved.
Gotcha. Or like the claims and the settlements and the building
Well,
improvements, does
the
that come
claim
to
and
us?
The settlement, the claims and settlement, that was a settlement we had to pay. That was unbudgeted, and I don't believe there's any recovery on our part from the trust on that.
And I guess my point is that's going to have to come from somewhere.
No, it is, absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm just thinking more having some higher level discussions at the school committee level about when we do have these, like you said, building improvement. We had no choice. That was
It was a safety issue, yep.
Had to do it. That maybe just when we do have those kind of things, just getting a report from you about where you're going to recommend it come from, that kind of thing. Because like I said, if you do read policy, anytime you transfer in between categories and line items, it's silly. We really should rewrite it. It's too low.
Okay.
But it's more just where we're going to have overages, really just being aware of it and having that discussion. So we know, when we're over, the two of these together, $100,000, for you to be able to tell us, well, I think it's going to come from here, because at the end of the day, we can't overspend. It's illegal. So it was more just in that's in
Sure,
that vein. That's it, Chair.
Okay. And certainly I support having the finance committee look at that and then referring it to policy to put it in place.
Can we agree to refer it to policy right from here?
Yeah.
The second step.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I see the need. I don't know why we would need finance to.
I just
refer it
didn't
to
know,
policy.
Diane, if you had some idea of dollars, but you're right. Policy can go right to policy, and we could recommend dollars. And then if we think it's too low, we can, discuss it at this level. So that's fine. It can go right to policy.
Thank you.
Okay. Any objections from anybody else, or any thoughts from anybody else about either the report itself or having the policy committee look at the actual expenditure limit?
Sorry. Can I just ask one more question of Amy?
Sure. That's why I asked.
Yeah, your line item funds transferred for CRF supplemental impact aid, the $100,000. Can you remind me what that one is?
So that is the $233,000. Initially, we had expenses that we would be able to put to the grant. And so it was basically, in order to pay it out of the grant, we just transferred $100,000. That would be reversed. And all the expenses that we can will be posted to the grant. That was just a temporary accounting measure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Any questions from the public, Mrs. Delcourt, about either this item or the previous one, the FY22 budget?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we are on new business, item 10A, capital funding request to town council. Dr. Sanquioni.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. In your packet, I've provided you a letter and an estimate to replace. As you heard me talk in our capital plan, we have a light stanchion at the stadium that was deemed unstable and had to be taken down. And we certainly could just keep this in our capital plan and hope it gets funded, which wouldn't provide us any revenue until after July 1st, which eliminates obviously the spring season. And again, without this light stanchion, we would be prohibited from playing any night games. As you know, there's the potential for football to be moved into a truncated season in March and April. We have boys and girls lacrosse that usually use that. And I know at times we keep the field lighted so the community can use it. So wanted to just get the school committee's thoughts on, would it be appropriate to make this request to the town to see if they can help us out?
Where
I'm
do
gonna
you
ask
think
for
the
Bush-
town's getting it from?
So Deb, before we get to that, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve sending this to them for purposes of discussion.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Elaine, are you trying to second? I can't see.
No, I'm not.
All right, I'll second the motion. So I'm going to open it to discussion. Deb? Deb?
Deb, you're on mute, Deb.
I know, I couldn't find my mouse.
You're
I
muted, so you
just-
wouldn't accidentally second the motion?
No, I just was, where do we think the town council? And I haven't been following the meeting, so this might be, Diane, you follow them. Where do we think the council's gonna come up with this?
I'd like to chime in on this. So I don't see where it can hurt to let them know, because here's the deal. Even though this is school property, it funds, it supports night events for school. How do we know we maybe can't even split this with them? How do we know there's not maybe a cell phone company that would be willing to repair this for us and let us put up a tower, which might need the help of the municipal side. So I don't think it's a bad idea to go. The worst you can be told is no, and maybe something good comes out of it. But I'd rather remain positive. And I get what you're saying, Deb. The money's not there. We understand that. We know that. But let's try to see what we can do.
Okay. Diane?
Well, I understand where Mike is coming from on that. It certainly doesn't hurt to ask. And we know that the town does have some money in reserves. However, I also, want to ask the committee, Dr. Sanquioni put a whole list of capital requests in front of us tonight. Are we saying as a committee that we would prioritize this over some of the much needed repairs to our schools? And secondly, unrelated question, Peter, why would this not be insured if it was a danger? I'm not understanding that.
So the reason why this pole was taken down is we had a pole that came down through natural causes through a windstorm.
Right.
That was pole one. That was covered under insurance. As a result, we hired a structural engineer to evaluate all the remaining poles. It seemed like the prudent thing to do. And through that report, it was deemed that another pole was structurally inferior. So we hired a crane. We took that down on our budget, and we work with our insurance company, and we're told basically that is not covered under our policy.
So if it had fallen, it would have been covered, but if you took it down as a preemptive measure, it wasn't?
Correct.
That seems to be the report we received, yes.
That's not fair. All right, Diane, other questions? You have the floor technically.
The only other comment I would make is if football season does happen, as we pass January, February, right, the evenings stay lighter later as we head into the summer. I don't think that would preclude us from playing games. They could schedule around it if they had to.
My counter argument would be that football season will start right back up in September, and it's not just football. I know there's other sports that play.
No, understood, but in September we're in a new fiscal year. We put this request in at budget time. That's my.
Okay, Elaine?
No.
Okay. So I guess there's two things that would make me say we should ask for this. Maybe three. I guess the most obvious one is they could say no. But if they say yes, yay. But more to the point, whereas other things probably can still wait some time, there is a timeliness issue here. Yes, the days will get longer, but you know, this is probably something that we should try and get done sooner rather than later. And then the second, I guess, is that this is also a the towns own the buildings. We have care and custody of the schools, but then the community uses that space, and that's great. And so this actually would allow people to be outdoors when we know that this is a time when people need to be outdoors as much as possible. So I think this is something that the town can do for itself, even though not do it yourself, but this is a benefit to the entire town at an important time. And so I think we should go ahead and send this letter to the town council. Is there any other discussion or question before we take a vote? Mrs. Delcourt, any questions from the public?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for a vote. Elaine?
Oops, sorry. Yes.
Diane?
Diane, you're on mute.
Sorry, no.
Deb?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes, the motion passes. All right, we are moving to item 10B, administrative goals. Mrs. Delcourt.
Yeah, just if I could tee that up for us, Dr. Larkin. As you know, we have all of our administrators come before the school committee and present their goals. Earlier this year, Ms. Delcourt had a previous engagement, but we certainly wouldn't want to let her out of all this fun that comes.
Oh, God knows.
Yes, you do.
So she does great work for the school system, and she has some good goals. So Ms. Delcourt.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm going to be short and sweet because I know that we are definitely running into the late hour. But that said, I just want to, again, thank you for the opportunity to see what the communication department here at Tiverton Public Schools is up to and where we're heading. So with that said, I have two goals. And my first goal is to develop and implement a Tiverton High School career and technical education program marketing plan. So it's also known as the CTE program. So if you hear that going forward, your career and technical education program being marketed, and I'll dive deeper into that in a moment. My second goal is to grow our external and internal community capacity, being able to share with you what that goal is momentarily. I want to bring you back in time. And in bringing you back in time, for those of you who were here back when 2016, when I started, you may recall the distance, the plan that was in a distance, the district communication plan. So with that said, there were 4 goals total. The first one was to develop clear and consistent operational expectations for communications within the district. The next one was to expand the method of communications that are used by the district. The third one was to establish a clear district identity through a unified approach to communications. This approach will be proactive, engaging, and professional. And then lastly, our fourth goal was to build stronger relationships across our community and set consistent expectations for how all stakeholders share and receive information to support the district. So essentially, this report is due to come to fruition this year. So just to kind of cover what we've been doing, we are a presence of social media. And if you remember, going back into history, we first debuted on social media through Facebook, and that took place on November 20th, 2016 with the Trending Mannequin Challenge, for those of you who may remember that. And that video provided us over 3,100 views. Going forward to now, our presence on Facebook stores over 89 videos that we produce as a Tiverton Public Schools. We have over 1,000 posts, and then most importantly, we have over 2,000 followers, which is really exciting. We teeter between 2018 and 2020 at any given moment. We do have a presence on Twitter, and that presence did simultaneously occur with Facebook with those 1,000 tweets, and we have 368 followers on Twitter. We later on progressed to the YouTube channel, which we use more like a filing cabinet versus an actual channel, but we'll talk further about some good intentions. With that said, we have stored on our YouTube channel over 60 videos and animations currently, and I love every minute of it. That said, just again, our communication goals, or my communication goals again, are to develop and implement our Tiverton High School Career and Technical Education CTE program marketing plan using all of my skills that I've developed over a 25-year career, and then also growing our external and internal community capacity. So I just want to dive quickly deeper into that, into the CTE marketing plan specifically. I want to answer the questions by spending a day in each class and kind of going on a listening tour versus just automatically taking off with what that is. But the questions that will still remain, and I do believe need to be answered before this marketing plan is fully ready to be executed. What makes our families enroll? What makes our students enroll? What does TMS guidance know about the CTE programs? And I had the honor of sitting with our two professionals about a month and a half ago, and I asked them these very questions, and they did have a lot of information. However, I do believe that there's an opportunity there because they are our tour guides for our 8th graders when they're making that very important decision of where they're going to attend high school. I also believe that our middle school guidance departments in our surrounding area deserve a very in-depth look at what Tiverton High School has to offer in these programs. I plan on answering that question in addition to who are our direct competitors, and then to conduct a SWOT analysis, including the THS program. Now, I'm willing to bet you think I spelled that acronym wrong, but I'm going to prove you wrong. This particular analysis is actually a strengths, weaknesses, alignments, and transportation analysis. So that essentially means I want to know our strengths and the strengths of our competitors. I want to know the weakness of both, and I also want to know where do we align with our constituents? Are we falling in line with those who offer the same program that we do, even if they are not close in proximity? Last but not least, if you've heard me once, you've heard me say 1,000 times, people no longer want to hunt for information. We want to be fed. That's literally why our social media calls our feed a feed. So because of that, we want to answer the question beforehand. We want to know what transportation will look like for these students who will come to Tiverton to experience our CTE program and be able to speak educatedly about what that looks like and what the transportation hangups may be, and to hopefully find a solution for that. I want to produce a commercial for each CTE program individually that allows for people to really get an in-depth look of what that looks like. And then last but not least, I want to bring some technology into our website, which I absolutely love and I swear by, but having a dedicated area to our CTE pathways, which we already do, but really beefing that up and giving it a good shot of adrenaline with what's called ISSUU software, which is essentially just an opportunity for people to view kind of a lookbook online. And then other literature for digital distribution to all middle school guidance professionals in and around the area. That's the first goal that I have, and breaking it down into how I see that being developed and implemented. The next one is to grow our external and internal community capacity. So what does that look like? Well, let's look at external first. The external component is really just starting the Tiverton Student Broadcasting Channel. We're going to talk about that momentarily. But that looks like something that's been in place for well over 25 years. I graduated from high school over 25 years ago, and back then we had a student broadcasting channel. And if Dan Rice, who is our producer tonight, facilitating the background, our Zoom call and producing that on the Tivertonvideos YouTube channel, he's smiling right now because this is a dream that I got to mentor him 3 years ago that he wanted to do, but unfortunately we didn't have the real estate in the district to house this particular studio. That said, through the extreme generosity of Mrs. Craven at the middle school, she has provided me with some fantastic space that will allow me to have my studio. So as you're looking, you can actually see this is what it looks like now with the green screen. So I'm just going to show you quickly. I'm actually standing in front of that green screen. I am not at the Today Show studio at Studio 1A, right? I am showing you this because it's important for you to see the value of the green screen, and that just budget-wise alone, we can have a fantastic background without really spending any money. Okay, so how I look at this as an external community capacity builder is being able to interview subject matter experts on important and trending topics. And by interviewing, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about students who wish to have more experience based on having broadcasting backgrounds or having an interest in producing and journalism. I think it's really, really important that we provide that platform. Again, I'm a product of a public school that provided that for me. Equipment, I already have it there, courtesy of the Scott Olson Get It Out of My Basement Fund. And then I also have zero expenses. So I don't see any expenses occurring because YouTube is a no-cost social media feed. And again, I'm really excited because it can plausibly happen. I'm maybe the Pollyanna in the room, but the majority of this does need to happen with COVID restrictions lifted, but I do believe that that is coming someday. So I'm optimistic and I'm still going forward with this goal. Next, what will student participation look like? Student participation will look like all grade levels. I do not in any way, shape, or form want to make this a high school only program. I want this to be something where all students can participate if they have a genuine interest. The internal side of this community capacity relation is that we need to ask ourselves, when is our recruiting season? And I'm going to tell you, our recruiting season is all year long. So what does that look like? Well, what about a virtual campus tour development, starting with Tiverton High School, being able to give people the opportunity to virtually visit our campuses whenever we want using certain software that I absolutely love and believe will meet the mark. Next, I want to develop workflow for elementary and middle school open houses in the invite. That's a collective audience that we already have during those open houses. And most importantly, when the COVID restrictions lift and they are coming back to our buildings, that's a perfect opportunity for us to promote the next school. Again, Tiverton Middle School, looking at it in a concept of a future student night plan. And then same thing with Tiverton High School, looking at it as a future student night plan as well. Marketing material should definitely have an online presence, an electronic presence, and less in the tangible presence, but looking at it from a perspective of mailings and digital distributions, from including posters and banners as well, is something that needs to be included in this goal. Promotional programs and efforts, again, being able to offer things like Goodnight Tigers. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's a program that we offered last year through a senior project, where seniors in high school at Tiverton High School read bedtime stories every Tuesday night to our other students through the YouTube channel. There's also an option where I'm excited to introduce this program that has been in the works for several years, but with COVID, it's obviously on hold. But it's an opportunity for students of the month to have a ticket to a basketball game of their choice, and they're announced as the student of the month representing all 4 other schools. And they get their picture taken with the basketball players, and then they're announced with the basketball players as the courtside Cub. And we ask them a few quick preliminary questions like, what do they want to be when they grow up, and all that good stuff. So those are those promotional programs that bring people to Tiverton High School so that they can see firsthand, even though they may be in 3rd grade or 5th grade, they can see the excellence that are behind each and every one on our door. So with that said, I want to thank you for your time. I absolutely love what I do every single day, and I appreciate the opportunity. It gets crazy here in the communication department. We have a lot of marketing to do, left to do, but we've come a long way. So I hope I've given you the opportunity to see what my goals are. And again, I thank you so much for this opportunity to express where we're heading in the future.
Thanks so much, Julie. That really looks very exciting and it's really great. I commend you on all you have done in the short time you've been here. So I'm going to open up the floor to questions. Elaine, you want to go first?
I have nothing, Jerry. It was a great presentation.
Thanks, Elaine.
Deb?
The same thing, no specific questions, but how far we've come just with all of our technology and the use of technology, and on a personal note, I know this is something that's come up a lot, you know, as long as I can remember. So happy to see that broadcasting channel being talked about again and get that running. That is something I know a lot of other schools do, and it's a great way to get information out there. So I'm really, really excited, Julie, to see that coming back.
Yeah, great. Diane?
Julie, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out. You brought me back to several years back with Amy Donnelly Roach, as she was the primary instigator of that communications plan. And how far I know she knows we've all come in the realm of communications, light years ahead of where we were back then. I know you mentioned that you did not want to limit your broadcasting channel to a specific grade level. But I'm wondering if this has any kind of potential for one of those pathways for students, for high school students.
Yeah, it sure does. But if a 3rd grader wants to be the liaison, for example, to the Fort Barton, Pecasset, or the Walter E. Ranger School, then I think that it's important for them to have the opportunity to maybe interview the principal once a week and provide those bullet points for the actual anchor who will be reporting the news. So, you know, again, there's a role for everybody. And I, just being someone who's always been interested in telecommunications, I would never want to limit someone, even if they are a 1st grader. If they've got the desire, I want to show them how to do it correctly and safely.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I will echo my my peers and say that that was a great presentation. I'm excited to see that. I mean, that blew me away. My children are in the middle school and at Pecasset, and although they think I'm old to them. Some of what I saw made me laugh to think, wow, when we debuted on Twitter, when we debuted on Facebook, and we went to YouTube. And I'm sort of in lockstep with all these milestones that the school department has hit when it comes to social media, media communications. I'm excited about where we're going. I'm also a product of public school at Middletown High School. We had one, and I broadcast a baseball game down at Cardines Field, probably in 1989. And so I'm glad we're pushing ahead with this, and I'm truly excited where you're going to take it. So thank you for your efforts and your dedication to this.
All right. Great job, Julie. Maybe we can have a version of Family Feud with the TTA or the town council or something. I don't know. All right. Couldn't resist. All right. Item 10C, dovetailing, request for approval of a media club. Mrs. Delcor.
Yeah, so without wasting any more of your time, I feel like I honestly covered it and I tried to kind of split the vegetables in with the ice cream, so to speak, in my previous presentation. So without any questions, thank you for your consideration.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Any additional discussion or questions? Okay, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Mike?
Absolutely, yes.
Elaine?
Yes,
Deb?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes,
And I vote yes. So again, thank you very much, Ms. Delcor. All right. We are on item 10D, APSAT data report.
So Dr. Larkin, I'm recognizing that it's after 9 o'clock. We've been going for a solid 3 hours.
I've noticed that.
Suggest to you that items D, E, and F could be moved to our next meeting. None of them are timely. D is a lengthy report, so I'd like to give it its due and not, force it in at a late hour. But that's certainly up to the committee. If you'd like to have it tonight, we certainly would do it then too.
So I'm going to ask if there's any objections from any members of the committee to tabling items D, E, and F until our meeting on January 12th.
I object to tabling item F. It is timely. It needs to be posted before the first of the year.
I sentiment that thought. Thank you, Diane.
Okay. Anybody have any objections to tabling D and E? So I will table those until the meeting for January 12th. Let's take up item 10F, approval of the 2021 school committee meeting calendar. Dr. Sanquioni?
Yeah, so we mapped out the calendar for the we had a calendar that took you through the rest of this school year, and now we've added on to make it a calendar year. We've added on, where our meeting ended in June of 2021. We added in July, August, September, October, November, December. So it's a full calendar year now.
Okay, I'm going to ask for motion to approve.
So moved.
Any questions on that?
Sorry, Mike?
Any discussion on that before you make a motion?
No, so we make the motion and second it, and then we have the discussion.
I'll
Sorry.
second it for discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been seconded. So I'm going to open the floor to discussion. Mike, you want to go first?
Oh, how did you know?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Very intuitive.
It is past 3 hours, so I think I might have fallen asleep a little bit. But I know the way it's always probably been done, that it's every 2 weeks on a Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Do you ever have discussions with the school committee about changing anything? I'm not saying I need to change anything, but would anyone have any objections of starting earlier than 7 p.m.? Or does that present a challenge to anyone as far as family traveling from work, et cetera?
It's kind of been 6 has been the soonest, I think.
Right. So to answer your question most specifically, this is when we have the discussion, I guess, about, an alternative night. It could be, Sunday mornings, whatever, we decide as a group. 6 has been okay for me personally, but it's still sort of tight, even when it's remote. If we go back to in-person, which I expect we will within the time period we are talking about, 6 is likely to be too early for me.
Is that every day, Jerry, or just Tuesdays?
Probably every day.
Okay.
Tuesday, and to the point. So we've always traditionally met on Tuesdays because town council meets on Mondays, and then budget sort of does Wednesdays and Thursdays a lot, but they sort of seem to set their own calendar because they're so compressed. Yeah, Tuesdays are still okay with me. I don't know if anybody else has any other, but it's every night, to answer your question. It would, depending on the week, it's potentially every night. 6 is too early.
Dr. Larkin, I concur with you, and eventually we'll all be back at our normal routines, one would hope. And the commute can very well make 6 o'clock undoable. Right now, doing this via Zoom, it's been certainly more flexible. One of the things to remember too is, this is the standard schedule. We, we've always reserved the right to adjust as we need to. And that would be for the benefit of any member of the committee, or for a specific meeting reason, like there's something else going on at the high school at 7 o'clock, and we need to, get through what we got to do before they go. So there's flexibility in here, but we have to put a schedule up.
Yeah.
Any thought of for the near future, maybe having the meetings at 6, even if it was like January, February, March, where we know most likely we're going to be doing it this way. So we.
I think as long as we are still remote, 6 o'clock is an okay meeting time for me. And the meeting only is officially established when it's posted. So we can always,
We could leave it as 7 and then post for 6 if we want.
yeah,
to.
we can post for 6 while we're still doing it, unless there's
Situation like tonight, we had executive session at 6, public session at 7.
which actually works, I think, a little bit better too. But
Yeah, we're going to be getting at 9:15 as opposed to 10:15.
Right, that's my thought.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to just go through the roll call to see if there's any other questions or concerns that people have. Elaine, anything?
No, excuse me, no.
Deb? Mike? Diane? Okay, so motion has been made and seconded, and I'm going to ask for a vote. Diane?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, so that was item 10F. We are now up to announcements, scheduled meetings, reports. We are scheduled to meet at this time on January 12th and 26th. And what did you guys decide about the joint meeting with the budget committee and the council?
I don't think it's our decision. I think it's a collaborative decision typically between us and the council. So
yeah, we usually give them a couple dates. Did we mention anything though?
Not yet. They're meeting again the week after Christmas.
All right, so I guess I'll wait to hear from them.
Yeah. I would like us to schedule, if you don't mind, a school committee finance workshop sometime in January, where we can devote probably a couple hours to go through the budget book, similar to what we had done in previous years.
Yeah,
The last one we did on a Saturday, would we want to do that again or no?
I think it's probably going to still be remote. Saturday's fine with me. I don't know if anybody else has any issues.
I'm jam-packed on Saturdays. We have everything going on.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm absolutely available.
Okay.
I thought I'd see more laughs out of that one, but I mean,
Yeah.
what do I have going on Saturday right now?
Well, who knows? You could have remote ballet. I don't know. I'm taking you by your word.
All right. Elaine, Saturday morning, and now that we haven't picked one yet, but our Saturday morning's okay.
Well, it has to fall on the right Saturday. I can't, if you give me a date, I have to really check every other Saturday is not good for me.
So which Saturdays are good for you in January, Elaine?
Let me just see if I can find my book.
Or, I mean, we're not meeting to the 12th. We could do
Well, wait a minute.
we could do the 5th.
when we do that, we usually do like 9 to 11 or 9 to 12 or something. So that's okay. That's
Right.
okay. I just need to leave there at 12, wherever,
So-
or home or wherever we are.
So we could do the
Saturday.
2nd or the 9th, or we could do the 5th, since we're not
The
meeting on,
second,
Not the
That's-
second.
not the 2nd.
Not
No.
the second. How about the 16th?
Again, what am I doing on New Year's Eve and New Year's?
nothing, just like the rest of us.
That's true.
So the
I'm sitting
night,
at home waiting for my shot.
Hallmark, that's Hallmark Channel. That's about what I've become, the Hallmark Channel.
How about the 16th,
That seems late.
yeah.
9th?
The only thing I wanted to let you know is on the night from 9 to noon, there's a newly elected leaders committee that I plan to attend from 9 to noon.
Okay.
for
Oh, from
school
Ryan.
committee. So if we could have please avoid that 9 to noon, I'm sorry to be a pain. I really want to attend that.
No, I think that's a good thing to attend.
No, it's a good point, and we should all consider attending
Yeah,
it.
we should all probably go to it. Okay.
I mean, I'm okay. I'm
The
okay.
9th was just right. The 2nd was too early, and the 16th.
How about the 5th?
How about the 5th?
That's- Yeah,
It's a normal Tuesday night. We can do 6:30
Ooh, I
or
like it.
6 even.
Oh, I like that. Good.
Peter, can you do that?
I can.
Amy, can you do that? Okay.
Okay. She was muted, but she said yes anyway.
She said yes, I saw her head.
I know. I can read lips.
So January 5th, finance workshop at 6.
Yes.
Budget workshop, right?
Peter, you'll post that?
I will.
The family feud with the TTA.
no, this is just us for our own family feud.
No, he knows that.
He liked the joke. He wanted to use it again.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get it.
Mike, go ahead and get yours in there too again.
Yeah. Okay. So any other announcements or reports? Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I will happily make a motion to adjourn.
I will happily second Mrs. Farmer's motion.